Hi, this is Sara Secora, and welcome to the first ever episode of Inside Voice Podcast. This is something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I see some of the industry greats like Cassandra Lee Morris and Crispin Freeman and these amazing people putting out these podcasts to give information and insight and stories, and I really think that's awesome. Because if you don't know this about me, I actually was a content creator originally, before I did voiceover. I was a YouTuber. I made Let's Plays for video games, specifically horror games and indie games. And I just wanted to share my passion of games with a community of people. And it's exactly what I did for many, many years. And it was actually that venture as a YouTuber that pushed me to become a voice actor. So they all kind of mingle together, and I feel like I'm going full circle by wanting to be a content creator again, using my experience as a voice actor, which is a really cool way to marry all these different things together that, I love. So there's going to be two ways that I'm going to do these podcasts. The first way is going to be solo, which is just going to be focusing on my journey, my experience, and insight. As a voice actor, casting director, voice director, coach, I'm going to talk about my personal experiences. So the interview portion will be other people in the industry. And that could be anyone across the board. Game developers, other casting directors, voice actors, sound engineers, people who are on all walks of this industry, because I believe that everybody has their own wells of knowledge, and pulling from those experiences can be super insightful and show you different avenues that maybe you didn't think about before. So with that said, for this episode here today, we're going to talk about a couple of things. The very first thing we're going to talk about is who the heck am I? Because a lot of people, you see me on Twitter or you see me floating around on casting announcements, but you don't really know who I am. I've even had people tell me that I'm quite veiled in my own way, very reserved into myself, and they don't really know anything about me. So I'm putting myself out there more for people to understand more about me and what I do and where I came from and why I'm here. And the second portion of this conversation is going to be about the mental fortitude of being an actor, because I don't think it's talked about enough. So getting right into it today, we're going to talk a little bit about who I am. So hi, I'm Sara Secora, and the very first thing in my bio is voice actor, because that is the thing that I am the most focused on, is acting. You might have heard me in things like Genshin Impact and Warframe and Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online and the Cuphead DLC and a bunch of stuff that I've done that I'm amazed that I even got to do. But then I'm also a voice director, casting director. I've written books like The Anywhere Voice Actor. I coach over on Skills Hub. I do a lot of stuff. So how did I get here? As a disabled person from Michigan, which is not a hub of VO. How did I get here doing this for almost 10 years? Let's bring it back. So 2014, I was 24 years old and I set out to do voiceover. I had nothing, no information on how to even do that, no acting background. I had nothing, but I wanted to do it. So what sparked that want in me to do it? Bringing it back to that YouTube conversation. I was in the height of my YouTube success at the time. I think at my heyday, I had like 37,000 subscribers, which was great for me. I had affiliates. I was making money off of it. I was like, this is great. And it was a really good time for me. So I was getting lots of viewers and lots of comments, and some of those comments were saying, hey, I really like when you read the notes in those horror games. I didn't even realize that was you reading them. I love that. You should do voiceover. I had people literally commenting, I just turn on your videos to listen to you. You're relaxing, you're calming. I just like listening to you. So people kept saying stuff like that over the course of years. And eventually, I was like, okay, wait. So there's this thing called voiceover, and people do it for video games. That's cool, because I have like a huge interest in games. How does one do that? And I had just finished playing The Wolf Among Us. And so I knew that there was this character named Bigby. And I knew that this person that voiced Bigby was Adam Harrington. And so I went on Twitter and I look up Adam Harrington. And I'm like, okay, he's a voice actor. He's doing the thing. He's doing great. I love what he's doing. So let me send him a message and ask him, how do you do this? And that's literally how I started, was sending another voice actor a message, unsolicited, out of nowhere, that, hey, I like voiceover. How does one do this? And he was so kind and so open to at least giving me that push, that initial push. And the way that he did that was he gave me a script and he said to email him an MP3 of me reading the lines. So I did that. okay? And it's awful. And he goes, you got a lot of work to do, kid. The road ahead of you is going to be long and arduous, and if you work on it and you dedicate yourself, you might be able to do something with that. And I tucked those words inside my heart, and I ran with it for 10 years as of next year. So I'm at 9.5 right now. And here we are. So then he mentioned this woman named Christina. And he's like, well, Christina, she actually coaches. She's a friend of mine. And I can recommend you to her, and you can start taking classes. I'm like, okay, I don't know anything else. Sure, I'll do that. Christina is an amazing voice actor and also one of the founders of GVAA, which is the rate guide everybody uses. This was before GVAA existed, and I was just coaching independently with Christina. It was indeed long. It was many years of just one-on-one classes, learning how to even act. The base of acting was definitely what I focused on for a long time. And, it wasn't until a bit later that I actually started booking anything, even free things like YouTube channel machinimas for Minecraft or GTA or whatever. I started with nothing, no pay, dumping buckets of money into this thing, getting equipment, training, trying to figure out, what am I doing here? If little 24-year-old me could look into the future and see me currently as I am now at 33, I do not think that my brain could comprehend the amount of success that I've had. It's not something that I even thought was possible because I don't live in a hub, because I don't have a theater degree, because I didn't know what I was doing. I had no connections to the industry, and I just kind of went, all right, I'm gonna put on my big boy pants and I'm gonna walk down this road that is completely veiled to me in darkness and fog, and I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I'm just going to keep going down this road for years and hope that something is going to happen in a positive light at some point. And I walked down that road for a long time. 6 years of pretty much only being the indie voice actor. I worked on a lot of indie video games, tons of indie video games. And then I started to see a new path opening up. The AAA video games that I dreamed of. They started to kind of notice me, like, hey, we see you, but you're not union, but you're not in LA, but we have our people. So we see you, we kind of notice you, but you're not fully what we want. You don't have the bells and whistles. Kept on that road, still doing indie video games. Still getting AAA people looking at me, but not fully taking that commitment. But then something changed. Then 2 video games that were AAA gave me a chance. That was Smite and Warframe. Those are my first 2 AAA video games that ever even gave me a chance. And boy, was I nervous when I worked on those games. Especially the Warframe one. I was struggling because I just had all this imposter syndrome and all this anxiety because I wasn't used to doing live directs either, and I kind of avoided them like the plague because of my anxiety problems. And so here I am in a live direct with Warframe and Smite. And my mind was blown. I'd broken through that glass ceiling that I always told myself I had, which was, you're the indie video game voice actor, and that is it. And suddenly, I saw a way through, and I did it. And then that begged the question, what's next? And from there, it's been years of me trying to get an LA agent. I went from AB2 to A3 to now Atlas as my LA agents. I also signed with Stars, and I have a Detroit agent out here, and I have a manager, which I never thought I would. And as I'm sitting here right now, I'm looking back on all those things and that long road of, I just don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where this is going to even take me. And it hits me like a train that I'm even here, able to say, hey guys, I'm the voice actor for these games. And I've been the voice for, a dubbed movie that went to theaters as the lead. I'm in TV shows on Netflix. I'm in national TV campaigns for commercials. I now voice direct and cast for AAA video game studios. Those things were not on my bingo card, but they were definitely things that I hoped and dreamed of. But I kept trying to be realistic with myself along the way about realistic expectations, because as I started out on this journey, everybody said you're going to have to move to LA. That's like non-negotiable. You want to work in the big leagues, you're going to have to live out there because that's the way it's done. And I'm like, well, I'm disabled and homebound. I don't think I can do that. So that's where that glass ceiling of I'm just the indie video game voice actor kind of really set in, was from the muttering of my peers and my coaches that, no, you have to be in LA to do this job. And I saw it in action. I saw people saying, if you were here, we would take you a little bit more seriously. But where you're at, sorry, we just can't do it. And what really changed the landscape of that was COVID, was a pandemic of people getting sick, of people dying, a horrible time for the world, ended up being a silver lining. Because as soon as COVID happened, I had the credits, I had the training, I had the booth, I had everything that I needed. And all of a sudden, these doors were opening like rapidly around me. And the people who once looked at me and said, sorry, no, we need you here, were like, no, we'll take you. And I started to grow this momentum and snowball at a rate that I don't know if I was fully ready for at the time, but I am thankful for the experience because it definitely got me to a place where I feel a lot better about doing those live directs, because I actually enjoy them now. For a long time, I dreaded them, but they're fun now, and I prefer them. And I've gotten to work on so many things that, Fallout and Elder Scrolls for me were series that I grew up playing. And so I'm just like, holy crap, are you serious? I get to be in these games? I don't care if they're small roles. I get to be a part of these stories. Remarkable experiences. And working on games like Warframe, those people over there at Digital Extremes are some of the nicest people I've ever worked with. And they were the people that gave me my first chance. And why I wrote the Anywhere voice actor is because when I started, that difficulty level, everything being veiled and mysterious and confusing, and I'm just trying to find, information on the most basic things was so hard that I wanted to make it available for people. I wanted people who want to work on this to have the information in front of them like a handbook so they can go to it, refer to it, they can learn from it, and they can actually make choices about their career without bias, without any sort of obstruction of their path. And things like your location can still be a determining factor if somebody wants to work with you. And if they even validate your career as a whole, because as a remote voice actor, I can tell you, I've gotten pushback by production, but also worse, by my own community of actors. That being the remote voice actor, the one that isn't in LA, is somehow seemingly anti-LA to them, which I'm not. What I am is disabled, and I believe accessibility is really important. I also am a casting director who believes authentic casting is really important, and diversity from one city of actors is kind of a small pool of diversity when we have the whole world to pull from. I speak out in favor of remote as a hybrid option. I don't speak about remote as an only, we should just get rid of LA, we should only be remote. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that remote and in studio should be equal options for people that are not present, cannot be present because of disabilities, because of their own financial situation. I just think we should be a hybrid future because it's possible. We've already proven it with COVID that people can record from home and it's not going to severely suffocate the quality of everything. I think plenty of people know how to run a home studio now because we've been doing that for the past 3 years. And to pull away from the industry talk for a moment, I want to explain who I am a little bit better as well without work. So who am I? I am a wife. I'm the mother of 4 cats and a new puppy we just got. I just bought my first house, which I'm super proud of. And I am disabled, which I don't go into great detail very often, but for the sake of this, I will say that I do suffer from agoraphobia, panic disorder, childhood PTSD, and other goodies that I'm not going to get into right now. It hasn't been easy being an actor and dealing with those things, especially the panic attacks, because there's been sessions and opportunities that have been more difficult due to my panic attacks. Though those cause limitations and slow me down at times, they do not stop me. Because what I find more important is having this purpose in life and being able to be successful and be the breadwinner and take care of my family is super important to me. Because when your world is a box, it's the contents within those boxes that start to matter. And that's self-worth. That is knowing that you succeeded in something that mattered to you. It's having things you care about, the relationships within it. And I still love playing video games, which I do almost every single day to unwind. Always a gamer. Always will be. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I hope this little insight into me is a good introduction to this podcast, because I really want you guys to maybe understand more about this particular experience that I have, because it is different. It does come from a different place, and I think that it's important to learn because this could become more the norm. People working as a voice actor from anywhere in the world without bias. The future where we can welcome a voice actor for their talent, regardless of their location, is a future that I hope for. We're getting there. So I'm going to use my voice and be loud about it, because I want people to have opportunity, same way that I did. And now switching gears, I do want to talk a little bit about the mental headspace of what it's like to be a voice actor, because, man, it's not always easy. Which I don't think is talked about enough. I think we talk about how do you get the role? How do you learn how to be an actor? How do you book the agent? But does anyone talk about how to get through the day? How to mentally navigate the jungle gym that is the industry and the expectations and the hardships and the pain that actors have to feel? Because, hello, we're freelancers. We don't know when our next job is. That is anxiety-inducing. Hello, we're actors who get rejected on the regular. That might be depression-inducing. So what can we do as actors to shield and protect ourselves when navigating an industry that is full of no's and hard feelings and feeling like you're not good enough and imposter syndrome and all those nasty, nasty words that make you go, should I even be doing this? And bring you down on days where you don't deserve to feel that way. Because the reality is social media is a highlight reel of everybody's announcements and super cool things. Do they ever tell you that today I'm having a mental health day where I feel down about myself because I didn't get that audition and I don't feel like I deserve to be here? We don't really get those tweets much. And for good reason. Putting yourself out there as somebody who is struggling, not a good look in the professional world. Not that we can't. I always say we should normalize mental health. But it's understandable that some people might not feel comfortable going out there and saying, here, look at me be super vulnerable and afraid right now. So with that said, let's talk about that. I don't feel good a lot of days. Physically, mentally, everything. I want to take this opportunity to tell you, the person who's listening, who probably has your own battles, your own obstacles that you are facing, because everybody does, whether it be physical, mental, whatever. I know there's a bunch of people out there with chronic illnesses, with mental disabilities, people who are struggling and don't necessarily want to go online and talk about it. Understand that there is not a person alive that does not have something. We all have something. That's what makes us human. But I've quickly learned, because let me tell you, I didn't always feel so comfortable talking about my disabilities. There was a large portion of time where I wouldn't say the word agoraphobia to anybody, where I wouldn't say, hey, I have debilitating panic attacks and I struggle every single day. I was not comfortable saying those things because I was embarrassed. I felt like there was something so deeply wrong with me and that I was just not normal. But now I don't see it that way. Now I see it as, well, that the horrible situation has given me a new perspective, has given me the ability to take what some people might take for granted and really appreciate it. People would have to, go on these major vacations to really get that jolt of, wow, this is what it's like to live. But I get that jolt with such little things. And as sad as that may be, it's also kind of a blessing because I really get to appreciate things more. You can't be happy all the time. It needs to rain for you to appreciate the sun, kind of moments where a little bit of that struggle has made me appreciate the benefits of all the other stuff going on, all the good, all the smiles. It's made my world more appreciative. I don't take things for granted as much as I might if I wasn't agoraphobic. But that is one of those perspectives where it's like, okay, maybe you have anxiety, maybe you have depression, and that brings so many nasty things to it. That's limiting, it's harming, but you can learn to harness that experience within you and not use it as 100% a negative thing, because the reality of life is very rarely is something 100% negative or 100% positive. The black and white thinking tends to get us in trouble with ourselves and our surroundings. I think the world is an array of grays, right? And my agoraphobia is a lot of grays. I feel so conflicted about it. Well, yes, it's something that I wish I didn't have. Like I said, it gives me that appreciation, and I've learned to work with it. And now I have a wonderful life that I'm super happy with. And there was a portion of time where I never thought I'd say that. But getting back to the main point, no matter what your struggle is, we all struggle. It's not to say that your struggle is less than or greater than or not valid or whatever. There's nobody on this planet that can take your life and live it for you. So at some point, you have to get up and make a conscious decision for yourself. Is voice acting right for you? Is this what you want to do? Because if getting told no on repeat is going to slow you, stop you, and break you, that's not something that we can make go away. And I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, but the reality is reframe it. Reframe your thought of rejection. Reframe your thought of comparison, of self-doubt. Am I worth it? Why would they pick me? Did they mess up by picking me? Am I going to ruin this session? Reframe it. What I say to that when you say, why did they pick me? Am I going to ruin this? They picked you for a reason. You earned it. They know what you're capable of. They chose you. Trust in them. When you compare yourself to other people and you're like, well, I wish I was in this. Well, look how much they're succeeding. You don't know what they're dealing with when the doors are closed. You don't know what's going on in their lives. You don't know what they might have recently been recast in, that an agent might have let them go, that thing that they were really hoping for they didn't get. You don't know. So to compare yourself to somebody as if they're the holy grail of all good and success and all the luck in the world, it's probably not really like that. And instead of being jealous that somebody got into some role, be happy for them. Don't internalize failure. Don't internalize other people's successes as something that you did wrong. So I think what's really important here is learning how to self-manage your own insecurity, your own worries, and then reframe everything. So it's not doomsday black and white suffocation. And I'm not saying there aren't days where it's going to feel that way, because there's definitely days it's going to feel that way. Oh my gosh, there's days it's going to feel that way. But that's when you lean on your community. That's when you sit down for a minute, you take a deep breath, and you remind yourself, I know that that was important to me, but the door is not shut on every opportunity before me. Right now, I just need to reframe this. I need to take a moment. I need to let this go. There's this really cool visualization exercise where you close your eyes and you imagine a river kind of flowing in front of you. And as the river is flowing, there's leaves flowing in that river. And you imagine that self-doubt, that rejection, that comparison, those things that are hurting you are one by one floating down as leaves down that river. And when they're out of sight, you can watch them until they float away out of sight. When they're out of sight, let it go. You watch them, you observe them, you notice them, and you let them go. You don't live in them. You don't exist in this world where you are nothing and all these things are crushing, because that will be more detrimental to your growth and what you're hoping for than anything else. The things that are going to make you not feel worth it. If you feel so muddled in your brain with all these negative feelings about yourself and your career and you're failing and everything's awful, it's only going to hurt you when you're trying to network or you're trying that audition or you're in that session. You're going to be so bottled up with negative feelings, you can't let that creativity really breathe. So why I say all this is because I really understand. I've been there. I continue to have my moments and feel those negative things and have to consistently remind myself that is not something that I can control, nor should I harp on, nor should I let breed and fester inside of my own being, because it does nothing to serve me. And it's not even helpful. And a lot of the times it's exaggerated by other feelings of insecurity or negativity that are not something that I should encourage. So I know that sounds like I'm putting it so easily, but it's something you have to practice. You have to put into practice and make a conscious effort to notice when you're starting to fall into that way. Tell yourself, nope. Okay, I feel like that rejection really hurt. That's okay. Rejection is normal. It's part of this job. Everybody gets rejected. Even the best voice actors in the world get rejected. It is not necessarily rejection, because as one of my friends put it, he said it doesn't matter if you are the best apple on orange day. If they're looking for an orange, even being the best apple is not good enough. It might not even be about you, your acting. Your acting could be great. In fact, I've even had auditions that I auditioned for other things like Warframe. I auditioned for something in Warframe like a year and a half ago, and they recently came back and booked me for something else based on that audition. Like, by the way, you auditioned for this character. Can you try for this one instead? And then that snowballed. I booked several NPCs off that round. And then I ended up booking a pretty major supporting character called Mathila in their Duviri DLC. And that all happened because of a quote and unquote failed audition. Somebody asked you to audition. That is a win. They're paying attention to you. They notice you. They might save your audition on file for other things. There is no true failure if you're actively working at it. And as everyone's always said, you probably heard a million times, but it's true, the audition is the job. That is getting in front of people. That is your opportunity to continue your craft. Because I always tell people you have to be self-directable in a way. When you really want to be competitive with your auditions, you got to be like, wait a minute, hold up a second. Am I really doing everything I can do here, or am I just getting through this audition quickly? Self-directing your mental fortitude is also important. And as much as I can talk about acting techniques here or marketing techniques, I think the thing that we really need to focus on is helping people navigate a space where you're working as a freelancer and you're in a box by yourself, day in and day out, auditioning by yourself in solitude. And you have nothing on the other end to confirm or deny that you're doing well other than bookings, and booking ratios are usually low for just about everybody. And you have to depend that somehow you're doing something right. It's no wonder that that is hard to do. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because every voice actor out there faces this, probably in an ebb and flow kind of pattern. And I think it's super important to normalize it, to let you know that you're not weird because you're feeling these things, but that you're going to be okay. Just be gentle with yourself. Allow yourself patience. You can't scream at a seed in a pot and expect it to grow. That's what you're doing with yourself when you're inside telling yourself you're not good enough, you're a failure. You're not giving yourself the sunlight and the water that you need and the time to grow. So slow down. Give yourself a little bit of grace and be kind to yourself. The world could use a whole lot more kindness, starting with you towards yourself. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Bye-bye.